is obviously unacceptable if you want to go to Worlds. So I think for this game, they might try and go back and say, we need a carry for Wonder in the top lane. We will go with the same kind of bot lane setup, which we like, because it's fine lane. We're not losing lane at all. And Yana and Medit can play Tahm Kench and Jhin properly. But Wonder then needs to be on something where he can actually deal proper damage, so it's not just perks.
We want to see the Akali remains the ban for Splyce. I like this Braum ban coming in from G2 Esports because they found multiple good engages in the previous game, as well as made it so hard for G2 to pick off individuals even when they found the initial setup. Trundle banned out as well. This one, interesting choice from G2, limiting the jungle pool, it looks like, for Xerxes, but Skarner's still up and available, and Rakan remains the ban.
And Varus is now open in this game here. They actually do not go for Skarner, even though it's been so successful. Even the last game it did its job, but it just didn't end up winning the game. They value the early game snowball of Olaf. We're going back to game 2, and I'm calling it, we're going to get carry top, carry mid, of course, and we're going to get a safe bot lane from G2, and they're going to snowball those 2 side lanes, or solo laners, sorry.
Except now we're going to see... Oh, Greg? This is interesting. Greg is now locked in. I thought for sure we would see Skarner, Varus, and a heartbeat, but they can, of course, wait if they want to make that Gragas a flex pick. There's no pressure for them to lock in their jungler until the second phase.
Do they want to play Varus now that it is open for Splyce? They were so successful with the champion yesterday against Misfits. But it is obviously a champion against Olaf that can be tricky. Tahm Kench is also open if they want to grab it and take it away from Medit. But I think they're happy saying, if you pick Tahm Kench now, we will win this bot lane with Varus.
Setup is there. Kaveh, an insane Varus player. One of the most talented Varus players in the league. There can be no doubt. Giving him that champion a big risk from G2, but putting a lot of faith in Jankos. Not giving him the Skarner, giving him the Olaf. Even more reliant. Pulling ahead in those early game exchanges. And G2 looks like they may just go back to the tried and true thus far in the series.
Yeah. Tahm Kench Jhin has been in the bot lane for them during the series. I think it's going even in lane, slightly pushing in, so it's okay, but it is against Varus now, which is a little bit difficult for them, obviously, but it is the one they preferred to play, because then you can just leave the bot lane alone, which should be the key thing, because I'm really expecting Olaf to focus all his time on the soul laners after they lost the last game.
And I do wonder what support they're going to pair it with, but they're giving up. They're not worried about securing the Jhin. They say it's not a priority pick for us. Against a Varus, you're all but set to lose lane anyway, or lose push.
I mean, no, but you can go Ashe and so on, and you're going to have a strong lane if you're G2. There's plenty of AD carries to go with. I think more taking away the Rise gives them another champ they can play around. Oh, Niski.
And this is a call-out. This, if Niski goes with it, he's going with the Cassio instead.
Okay.
Historically, a very good matchup into the Rise. Rise forced to face you on the vast majority of his skills in the cast animation, so much easier on land to land that petrifying gaze.
I will say, though, Rise, Olaf, against the Cassiopeia, it gets scary if the jungler's not there to help her. And the 2v1 setup is fantastic for G2. And they can still go Rise top. Remember that. They can put Rise top lane if they want to grab something different into the Cassio.
Taking Rise away from perks to give it to Wonder would be a crazy swap. So you know Splyce are nervous about it, but also have to feel uncertain. The Aatrox banned away from Wonder, though they are still limiting that champion pool. They don't want to give the Alistar over. We actually saw Kasing be very effective with it, especially when it came to denying G2's engage attempts.
Get rid of the Jhin.
It feels like Ashe duty for Hjarnan.
I think Ashe would make a lot of sense here on their side. Like, the arrow is also great to kind of pressure against the Varus. On bottom side, like, he can't just all-in push 24/7 because then he get arrowed plus an Olaf. So I think Ashe would make a lot of sense for G2 to pick. It's not a Zac either that you're too scared of. Like, obviously Gragas, body time flash, sure, but you're not the main target anyway.
And another big strength is that with perks on the Rise or Wonder on the Rise, they can take TP. They also have the additional map mobility, whereas Niski's probably forced into this cleanse. And that sets them up nicely to control the map a little bit better, something that was a bit of a struggle in the previous game. Question is, what do Splyce try out their composition with? The Morgana was banned away.
Now the Black Shield obviously makes it a bit harder for Ashe right there. Oh, he just picked, what? He just picked the Hyperdinger!
I love it, I love it. And this...
Dude, it might be Rise top there.
I think it's Rise top.
There we go. It's not Rise against Cassiopeia. It's what we said right here. They could now change it up and say, we don't actually want to take the Rise into Cassiopeia. We want to go for something that Perkz played really well in the last game.
And I want to be clear here. If your back is against the wall, if you're in what could be your final game of the year, don't hold anything back. Leave nothing on the table. Put everything on the line. Go all in, and that is what G2 are doing right here.
Oh, man, you know what it means.
I think it's an Aurelia top.
Nah, wait for it. They can still swap it around, but... I mean, Cassiopeia against Aurelia is actually okay, because you have so much damage on Cassiopeia. The problem is when the jungler shows up and the snowball
And
Irelia top would also make sense against Maokai.
Deficio, Hjarnan is 5-0 with a 49 KDA on this Heimerdinger.
Yeah, and you can leave him alone. You don't have to do anything around bot lane. It's what we said the moment we saw the Olaf pick. It's going to be 2 carries in the solo laners. It's going to be a ton of focus on the solo laners getting fed. Will they keep the Irelia top? No, they do swap it in the end. So it is Perkz back on Irelia for this game. Niski is going to be a target.
Going to be difficult into the Miasma, but if you get an early lead, even Cassio's going to struggle to survive against the Irelia. And Deficio, I look at Splyce's comp and I go, Splyce got everything they wanted.
It's a late game powerhouse.
But when I look at G2, that phrase, you don't want to back a wounded animal into a corner, that's the only thing that comes to my mind, because these guys are set to pop off on an individual level, and that is what carried them through in Game 2. Olaf incredibly strong in the early game. Wonder, the outplay potential on Rise is there. Aurelia, we already saw this man kill Niski last game. And Heimerdinger back out for Hjarnan.
Yeah, man. I mean, Hjarnan was one of the AD carries who benefited the most from the big meta shift in the bot lane. Mages was huge for him. He's always loved the Heimerdinger. And now, in the potentially the last game they played, he's back on it. I mean, it's actually still a good pick. The thing is, yes, AD carries got better, so everyone went back, because if it's a 50-50 between a mage and an AD carry, a guy who's been playing AD carries for years will grab, of course, the AD carry champion. But
Hjarnan's the exception.
Here's the thing, like, Hjarnan and things like Heimerdinger can still be played bot lane.
And this man has played the champion for years. This is it, folks. Match point for Splyce. Win here, and they face Schalke tomorrow for the 3rd and final seed for Europe in Worlds 2018. If they lose, we force a Game 5. Silver scrapes for G2 and Splyce. All the more pressure for both these teams, and yet another proof that you do not want to give Hjarnan this Heimerdinger. We're going to find out, though, as we get into this game.
And if Splyce managed to 3-1 against G2, going in against Schalke, I know a lot of people now will say Schalke will be heavy favorites because they obviously look better in playoffs, but that best of 5 was 5 games in the quarterfinal. It was so back and forth between them, and now Splyce would have won 2 series in a row if they can finish this one. So that could set up an insane last game for the world spot. I'll see what happens bot lane. I'm expecting just perma push from the Heimerdinger.
The good news is the Varus and the Morgana have double-ranged champions. Hjarnan has 2 turrets, though, so we'll find out who comes out on top.
He has more range because of the turrets.
And you can't really approach this level 1. That is the good news for G2. You remember, I think, was it 2016 Worlds where we saw the Zyra Misfortune bot lanes where you had to like fight to stop the seeds?
Yeah.
Feels a little similar to that, but the turrets a little more reliable than the seeds early on. And Hjarnan, of course, very scary if you get too close, but...
Good way to answer so far. You can use pull plus the E from Varus to actually kill them. But there's a new turret up.
Yep.
And they're pushing in, they're trying. Again, this is a leave the bot lane alone kind of thing for G2 Esports. We're gonna follow Jankos instead around the solo laners, and I really want to see around mid. Specifically, no cleanse from Niski. He's running exhaust in this game, so if the stun lands and Jankos is there, he's going to die.
Difficult position to be in. Niski, though, still seems pretty confident. He's gonna play very safely around this level 2, though. Knows this is where he died last time. Perkz does, of course, level up the Flawless Duet, can look for the stun, and the passive is stacked. And this is pretty much where all the kill pressure comes from.
Also, Xerxes not going for Skarner in this game. Wants the Gragas against the Olaf specifically. First stun, Perkz showing he can land it.
Now pulling back.
Yank showing he can get some experience in mid.
And it's so tense, Deficio. You know, both of us are sitting here hesitating to make any long points, hesitating to start any discussion, because we know Perkz can just push Q at any moment and try to kill Niski in this lane phase. We saw it happen last game. We almost expect, I feel like, to see it happen again.
I mean, yeah, it's true. But I will say, however, if you do try and all-in as Irelia in pure 1v1, the damage of Cassiopeia in the early game is high enough to actually return almost the same amount of DPS onto Irelia and maybe even take her down if she does step too far forward, especially with the exhaust from Niski. But problem is, again, you're so scared of the Olaf running at you. There's no real way for you to get away from him once the axe connects. And Niski will just get to kill all the minions here. Perkz gets a free little recall on his side. And bot lane, as we talked about, push, push, push. Ooh.
Binding. Level 2 for Wadidi has to use the cleanse. Copy flashing forward, heal up to try to get one more
hit.
Jankos is here. Jankos is here. They can try to turn it. Kasing has no binding. Just is here as well. Throws down the axe. Are they going to try to go for this play? A lot of damage comes in as the towers hit there onto Kasing, but both sides just backing off. That could have been massive.
Yeah, no top laners TPing in. Wonder was out of mana, otherwise he could have tried to TP bot once he saw the flash from Kobe. So we now have both summoners gone on the AD carry from Splyce. Both summoners gone on the support on the side of G2. Will interrupt the recall here for Perks. Takes the tower shot for it. But that's a big wave. It's going to push towards him if he doesn't kill all the minions.
The thing is Xerxes already backed off. If Jankos can time the play there. Deed's on the way too. They're trying to force the play. All right, amazing. Well, you've seen it once, we'll see it again. All right. No, but on a serious note, I can only imagine what everyone's
You know what,
going,
amazing?
yeah,
if you want to give your opinion on all this, you could be a caster again, and you could stand right here.
That's true. And I also, now I'm going to have to pull out, dash in, dash out. Zerpur's trying to make a save to the Ignite goes down on the Niski. Maybe they can turn it back, though. The flash out. Jankos is going to get a return kill here in a moment. It's a good start thus far, but the 1-for-1 and Niski coming out on top, although Xerxes is going to grab that first kill.
Oh, but everyone really wants to snowball their mid laner right here. Both junglers around and with Deed. Niski gets the kill, and that's very, very important. Actually, no, sorry. Xerxes got the kill, so both junglers picked it up. No big advantage for either mid laner.
Now on the top side of the map, Wonder actually could be in trouble. Cutting through a lot of that mana. Support and jungle duel in the mid lane. Not something I frequently get to say, but both sides are going to back off unscathed, and I think unsurprisingly.
That's kind of thing also with the Ryze top lane. So there's another carry on the side of G2, but a very weak front line compared to some of the other drafts we've seen where we have 2 or 3 tanks. Splyce obviously packing 2 tanks again.
Oh, he got it! God, it's like that scene from Mission Impossible. I assume that one where they kill someone when they're hiding. I don't know.
Wow, that was a statement, man.
That was crazy, I gotta say. I was at a loss for words and tried to speak anyway, but
It is not often you find a random Heimerdinger sitting in that brush.
It is not often. Maybe, what, 1 in 1,000 games?
Probably, yeah.
This is a good time to talk about this, because, yeah, 5-0. 49 KDA, continuing to add to that KDA as he is now 1-0 up.
I can't believe that after he actually made the huge mistake in the last game, he goes back to the Heimerdinger. And he finds this, like, random kill because he knows Kasing is going to move down. So well played by him, but this is the fight in mid before. Both junglers around.
Oh.
And because Xerxes is here first, he gets a quick kill for himself, but obviously Niski cannot get out. Probably should just have saved his flash as well, but that's a small thing anyway. Can't really blame him for trying to get out. And here, Yanin predicts that he's going to blast cone over.
Bam!
Oh, nice. No, Wadid, you don't get to do anything here. Get out of the picture.
At least he looked pretty. He was there to back his friend up. That's what matters. He's that guy in the background of the 1v1 shouting, "Get him!"
Yeah, it's true. Yanin got him.
It does, and that's the start that G2 wanted. 2-1 now, the goal just about dead even. We have to remember, the slower this game is, the better it is for the side of Splyce. They are notoriously an incredible team.
Yeah, and again, as we mentioned before, double frontline tank on the side of Splyce versus just Jankos effectively on G2. Like, it makes late game teamfighting really difficult for G2 Esports because they just have to dance in and out of fights, like find proper flanks to actually do something and assassinate a target. Otherwise, they just die to Cassiopeia Varus late game while they're dealing with a Maokai. So a lot of it is around getting these soul laners ahead, and right now Perks is not ahead in this game. Kasing is sitting, trying to see if any all-in will happen, and the random binding flying out.
Throwing it down. Yanko's now pressuring. Xerxes going to clear out the jungle. Top lane matchup. Maokai actually sustaining the push pretty nicely. Catalyst combined with the Maokai passive, of course, just generally keeps him healthy in this matchup, and a little bit more AoE early on now as Ryze waits for a few more levels. Xerxes, though, may look for the top lane dive officially.
Oh, let's see. We got ulti from Odamna coming in as well.
Predator used. Xerxes looking to lock him down. Flash out. Well used in the end. Wonder waiting as long as possible before he has to burn it, but Jankos is now responding. Realm Warp is coming out. They could look to turn this. That's 3 tower shots tanked by Odawamne. Jankos is here, ready to get the fight started. No ulti from Odawamne. Just going to walk him down. Has to flash out from the axe. One more picked up, thrown out. Flash forward is going to lock him down and take him out. And unstoppable from Jankos means he makes it out too.
Yeah, so what actually happened there was Xerxes didn't want to overchase, so he just wanted to force the flash with the body slam because he knew there was a chance the enemy jungler could show up. But they still, because of the Ryze ulti, ended up getting caught. Odamna took so much damage, and once Jankos could actually flash for him, the kill would be guaranteed. This is the initial play, so people might wonder why Xerxes actually trying to just body slam straight at him. You can just keep chasing him down, because you know he's gonna flash, but he doesn't want to keep chasing. The problem is because of the Ryze ult and Jankos Predator, they actually have enough tools to get close to then catch these guys. And Odamna, he can't get out, he's trying to escape. But he will go down, and he gets the flash down as well. So early kills for Jankos. Huge here for G2 with the first pick Olaf, not the first pick Skarner this time around.
excellent start, 3-1 now. Still not a significant gold advantage, however. Need to get a little bit more here if they want to get this snowball going. We've seen, though, sometimes this is all it takes for G2 to really take over a game. We'll have to see how well EULCS can snowball, because we saw it on Perks' Akali. This man can just take over a game. We'll have to see if Hjarnan on this Heimerdinger and EULCS on this Olaf can do more with their gold lead, can make an impact here in this match. And you gotta love Heimerdinger. He's just waiting around that corner.
Yeah.
If he hits a grenade, they die. We've all learned that the hard way for that 1 or 2 months that people played Heimerdinger bot lane.
It's true, and no matter, you know, what you actually thought of that meta where it was Mages and Bruce's bot lane, while it has returned to 80 carries, the fact that it opened up people's eyes to like, oh, you could actually play this bot lane, it is actually pretty effective, means that we can still, in some of these key moments, get things like a Heimerdinger, and we don't have to scream cheese or anything. It's actually a very legit pick.
Especially for Hjarnan. Now I wonder though, Deficio, we don't always go super micro into builds, but we have double longsword coming out from Kabe pretty early on. Is this, I have 2 theories. One is it's lethality Varus, which is unlikely given the lethal tempo. Is this a Storm Racer? Why are there 2 longswords in this Varus' inventory?
I mean, on his side, if he wants to go Blade early as well.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about Blade.
For Cutlass.
God, I forgot about Blade.
On his side, but I mean, the thing about Varus actually, and it's one of the things I love about him, also when I play him myself, is you have 5-6 viable build paths. Like, you can go full lethality early game, you know, rushing towards the rated Dirk, but then normally you have Arcane Comet on your side. You can go for the, you know, the Rage Blade builds, you can go for traditional crit build as well.
There's the ult from Perks though, gonna have to hold that thought. It's just gonna ult, force Niski to back up, I think trying to bait a little bit more. Has pushed him under tower, here comes the
here we go!
Kasing, where's that black shield? Not gonna do a whole lot. Throws down the axe, buys a bit of time for Kabi to try and escape. Kasing is set to fall, flashing forward, Kabi's for dinner, come on Wadid, take it! There you go. Wadid grabs the kill in the end, 5-1 for G2. Deficio backs against the wall, they pick up the Heimerdinger, they get the Olaf, and now they're crushing this early game.
Heimerdinger with the push, enemy team stuck on the turret, they can't do anything. And you have this Olaf just running crazy. EULCS, one of the most criticized players in all of EULCS this split, is showing up on the Olaf here. Niski did not hit it.
Needs to make it out though. The exhaust now comes down. Bison tries to buy a bit more time, flashes out. TP now coming in. Niski, as he overstayed his welcome, Perks can reset.
It's all good for them, but that was now flash used by Xerxes. Traded for flash on Perks, obviously. Bot lane turret down. Heimerdinger 2 kills on his side. Lud and Zeko coming in very soon. All Kobe can do on his side is that Cutlass we just talked about, and that's not going to do anything against Heimerdinger other than providing you a bit of sustain.
And remember, Deficio, what do we say? How do Splyce need to win the game? We've heard it from the desk, you've heard it from us.
Slow early game.
Slow. Slow games are good. You see, when they have these small deficits, they don't get a lot of towers early on, but these slow games are good for them. In their wins in playoffs and regionals, average game time there on the left, 36 minutes. They like to keep it slow. They want their 80 carry to have a few items under the belt. And that CKPM, they're not fighting.
And you guys might think, oh, is this out of 10 teams, so it's not too bad, you're just middle of the pack. No, but it's playoffs and regionals, so it's only 6 teams. So they're actually at the bottom in a lot of these. This is a very simple replay of, look at that cannon. Oh, last shot. Snowman in a cannon.
I never realized it was a snowman until now. Well, honestly, just a fantastic turnaround from G2's other game performance into this one. Game 3.
And we got Sion last game from from Wonder. Ugh, tank top lane from Wonder. Kind of actually what we wanted going into the series because the carries hadn't been successful, but this series specifically, they need him on a carry. And while this is not too much about him, it did set up EULCS to play topside early because they had a lot of control in these lanes, into then a nice play on bottom side with the Heimerdinger. So I love the change, and it really benefited G2.
Absolutely did. And now we see for Splyce, as they start to fall behind, Hex Drinkers coming out across the team. This is going to be key.
Big cannon now.
A lot of magic damage on the side of Splyce that will get mitigated here. And the tower, the focus now for this team. Niski stepping forward, but he has to be really careful. There's the ulti for Perks. He's just going to try to get the reset. The sun is there, locked up under the tower. He's going to try to dash, tries to get the reset and get out, but Kasing will grab him in the end. So much CC, well used by the side of Splyce.
Oh, G2, most of them actually all in for the turret, but then when they landed some damage onto Niski, they saw an opening, they went for it. Odamna versus Wonder.
This is going to be big. Odamna deceptively tanky here. Will heal up a lot. Wonder continues to trade, and continues to extend the trade. Woohoo!
Lud and Zeko is there, man, and Jan, he's going to land it. He lands every single one.
And we have to remember, one item for these mage bot laners is just an insane power spike compared to a Blade of the Rune King for Kabi.
And that's one of the reasons earlier in the split when we had the bot lane meta with mages was, you know, games were so quick. They would end at like 25 minutes, 80 carries would never get to 3 items on their side, and like the Lud and Zeko Heimerdinger would just be so hard to deal with. And it's still the case right now. G2 are in full control despite Perkz not getting fed. It's funny enough now about his bot lane. Everyone looked at him after last game and said, this is such an issue, man. It's the Perkz show on his own, but that's not the case in this game. So he actually gets a bit baited because they land a nice amount of poke and then he gets stunned because he's in the animation and then he gets knocked up by Xerxes. And Perkz ends up going down, did not manage to actually get Nisqy down with him. That's one kill. They still lose the turret as we saw here in the live picture.
Does drop down in the end. That replay, of course, brought to you by Acer Predator. As Perkz almost kills what could have been 2 people, but can't. And now Yanko's buying a bit more time, waiting for that Herald. 14 minutes in, nice time to take it. Will set them up to put a lot of pressure down. And Wonder finally starting to be able to keep the pressure up on the top side of the map. Yarman TPs into the mid lane. He's got enough wave clear to just solo hold that down as Perkz can now take up home on the side lane. Nisqy, though, still with exhaust means the kill pressure from Perkz is a little bit lesser. And Jankos has to go up very comfortable to take this one. G2 snowballing. It feels like game 2 all over again.
It's too fast right now for Splyce. Man, they need to find a way to slow down, but there's just not a good way to do it. Because you're getting pressured in so many different lanes. You don't have like that one winning lane you can play around, and if you get a kill there, it stops G2 from being aggressive. Because if you look at all the matchups, top lane they're winning on the side of G2, and they're looking for Odoamne.
Odoamne is now in trouble. Predator comes out. They're just going to back off. They force the flash. That's all that they want. They can now try to clear the wave, maybe get the TP2 if he wants to commit.
So, as we said before here, top lane is in favor of G2. Mid lane with the Heimer is in favor of G2. I think maybe the one lane where it is even is still Nisqy versus Perkz, and that's the one Xerxes is playing around. So there is one lane for them to try and get something. Can they get a turret? Do you kill Perkz maybe and you force G2 to react and go down bot lane? That's how you can slow down the game, but it requires you to get kills around your cast COP. If you don't do that, you're not winning mid lane, that's for sure right now. So Xerxes is going to try. Maybe if you send 4 players, they can do it. They can just back away on G2's side because they knew the guys left bottom lane.
Key things to note, Hjarnan does have the stopwatch. Will be crucial if Splyce do want to all in there and try to shut this guy down. Of course, an immense amount of CC means that if he does get stunned, he's very likely going to die before he gets a chance to use it. But if they can't land it, if he gets to slay down that upgraded tower, things are going to look pretty easy. Perkz, no back up here quite yet. Can leap in and out of this fight. Nisqy trying to kind of bait Perkz forward. Isn't going to get it quite yet.
And the most annoying thing for Splyce now is that it's Tahm Kench sitting mid with Heimerdinger. So when you try and kill Perkz, Heimerdinger and Tahm Kench shows up with the ulti. And it's so difficult to deal with when you're playing as 1-3-1 and Tahm Kench is the support on the split pushing team. Because you can always bring multiple members, because that's kind of your way back, right? Is you either all in mid lane as Splyce, but then Tahm Kench's Devour is there to save whoever you're trying to all in. Or you try and go 2 to 3 players to kill the one guy who's split pushing either top or bot lane. But that's where Tahm Kench ulti once again means that you show up with 2 extra players. So it's really hard for Splyce to make an aggressive move. And that's why it goes back to stalling now. Stall, stall, stall for as long as possible. Get farm on your carries, especially Nisqy needs it on his side, because otherwise he will just melt before he can do anything. And yeah, don't face check, I guess, if Hjarnan has been around.
Just wait. Just do not walk into a bush where you think a Heimerdinger could be. Herald now has been used on top side. Feels like potentially a little bit of waste of the charge, but is enough to force Splyce to
it's all good. They can keep pushing with it. They don't actually need to reset right now.
This is a ton of wave clear and a ton of magic damage. Abyssal Mask is there for Odoamne, but probably not enough to stop these guys from taking the towers. Xerxes on the way up. Predator now used. Want to back off. Odoamne is going to try to find the engage here. Good bit of poke goes down. Now backing off. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Perkz just continues to soak up a bit more farm.
Oh, they're moving everyone in.
Out. I like the macro moves coming in from G2. Eyes set on this tier 2 tower.
Can they actually get it down? Or will Splyce be able to defend Hjarnan?
Ooh, Kasing takes a lot of damage. Odoamne looking for the engage, but I think that's a bit too far away for the ultimate.
It's just a zoning one. Like, again, it's Splyce saying we just need to keep this turret alive, because they can't afford to lose all these tier 2 turrets either before 20 minutes. We've seen so many different games this series. It's actually been extremely interesting to see the different styles clash against each other. We must snowball early game with, you know, carries in our solo laners from G2 versus we must get past 20 minutes and then play really smart. Like, Splyce definitely are playing smart past 20 minutes when they are just punishing whatever mistake G2 will make on the map. And they get, you know, a big fight, they win, they get a Baron. Like, it's been really good to see. But this game here, G2, they're up 3k gold. Mid lane turret is very low. Oh, until the Baron is actually taken or all the outer turrets have dropped, Splyce can still stall.
And Splyce have incredible peel here as a team. The Maokai, the Gragas, you've got the Cassio ult as well for so many targets that want to charge. Yankos can ignore that, but the Aurelia, the Rise, they cannot.
They have great peel in teamfights. They shouldn't be able to peel the Cassiopeia if she's actually sitting in a side lane, and that is risky, what Splyce are doing, but they have to get farm on the carries, right? I just want to see what did time control to the lane with Cassiopeia if she's ever pushing. Obviously not the case now, which is why he's looking for towards the bottom side.
Perk threatening with the stun, throwing it down as Hjarnan and Wadid do collapse. Odoamne without a ton of wave clear here. Defiant Dance uses to mitigate a tiny bit of damage, and the ultimate now coming out from Hjarnan. The upgrade just to poke down on Odoamne, getting a lot of damage down. There's the stun, no follow-up though. G2 not going to get aggressive here. They know that they're on match point. They can't afford to make a mistake.
But this is all Hjarnan is doing right now. He walks into a lane, puts down the big cannon in front of the turret, and it's either going to hit a champion and poke them, or it's going to hit the turret and deal some serious damage to it. It's just like a fast push comp right now with the Heimerdinger.
They're keeping the pressure up. Perkz now just continues to threaten with the stun off to the side. They are going to grab the tier 2. Drum Warp now used. They're just going to
go to Drake. Oh, Xerxes, you ruined the fun. It was going to look so pretty.
What did it do, though? That's the question.
It stopped them from instantly going down to get the Drake.
True. Which is an important prize at this point if they want to contest those major objectives like Baron. But now without Gragas having ultimate, you have to wonder if G2 can just reset, try to play around that cooldown.
I mean, they can and should still be able to get the Drake, but again, it's buying time for Splyce. That's all that matters. It's slow, slow, slow. Ooh. Odoamne.
Talking about buying time, Odoamne just bought himself a blue buff.
A blue buff, you know. Niski's trying.
Sadly, that is a phase rush rise.
Notice, however, on the minimap, whenever Niski's pushing forward, Xerxes is right behind him because he knows Tahm Kench will show up with Hjarnan, and then Niski will die in a 3v1. So I like how Xerxes is shadowing again that one winning lane they have, or the one lane they could win with the Cassiopeia. But the moment he's not there, Niski cannot push, because then he will just get collapsed on by Wadid. So now he needs to be careful. He needs to step back like he's doing now. I like the play from Niski, smart. And then you reset the whole thing as Splyce. When are you at 2 items? Varus, still a bit out. Cassiopeia right now, 2 items will get completed, so Niski can deal some damage. It's not over yet by any means for Splyce.
Not whatsoever. Holding on, still stalling out as expected from this team in this lineup. G2, the pressure is on them to snowball and keep this ball rolling. Heimerdinger, of course, an incredible threat, but hard to match the presence in a late game team fight from a champion like Varus.
And while we're not normally the biggest fans of Mountain Drake, because it's pretty useless when it comes to actually, you know, winning a big fight. In this game here, where G2 are playing 1-3-1, and they're probably going to start a Baron with 2 or 3 players, the Mountain Drake can actually be huge. Because that is kind of the key objective for them, to get all the way into the base. Otherwise, they have to get through all the wave clear on the side of Splyce. So if you can do like a 2-3 man Baron with the Heimerdinger and a Mountain Drake, plus an Ocean Drake actually, that will be great for them. They can get maximum value out of it. So look at the setup once again. Aurelia top, Rise bot lane. And what Splyce is trying to do is they're trying to push mid first before they catch the side lane, so they don't instantly just lose mid control and then get collapsed on in a side. But you can't do that against Heimer. He just instantly kills the wave, and now you gotta be careful.
Difficult spot for Splyce to find themselves in. 5k goal lead for G2. The Mountain Drake you mentioned is pretty important. I have to remember, Splyce can get to late game. The Cassio, the Varus, they can shred a Baron in an instant. So it just comes down to finding that opportunity, but they have to survive that long. Not even at the 2 item point for Kave. Have to assume once he gets a chance to back, he will be able to pick up that Rage Blade.
And the thing I love the most when I see split push comps like G2 is always look at the minimap. See how everyone is moving. How is Splyce moving defensively to try and react to that potential time control to a side to protect either Odoamne or Niski? How is G2 setting it up? You know, push into vision on one side. Only go for one side, guys. You can't put full vision on both sides of the jungle. You don't have enough wards in the game to do that. So you have to pick one side. It is the Wonder side right now. That's where they have to control. That's where they're going for the turret.
Now it looks like they can get that tier 2. They're going to back off in the end. Odoamne just continues to use that ultimate to just force G2 to back up, to buy time, as you mentioned earlier. And I like the discussion about vision, Deficio, because if they're not on the side that you have vision in, you just assume that they're on the other side, and you stay away.
Exactly. Right now, Perkz tried to step forward top in the 1v1. Niski did use ulti, as we saw down in the little corner.
Still has exhaust though, so not the end of the world, but definitely gonna be a lot more difficult.
Oh, yeah, they're trying.
They're trying to get a little bit more onto Wonder. Gonna try to buy a bit more time. He has the Saracen Price to get a little bit more, but Wonder should just get picked off right here. Well played by Splyce, but instantly G2 use the Tahm Kench ultimate to take them to the top side of the map. They will get this tier 2 tower.
Yeah, because G2 had pushed in all 3 lanes, when Splyce tried to all in one lane, you can always go to the opposite side of the map and get something. So G2 makes sure to trade turret for a kill, but Splyce, they know. But they're saying getting a kill is more important for us than trying to defend a turret. We're going to lose eventually because we need items. And right now you have Rage Bait completed for Varus.
Take a look at this one more time. You can see he just doesn't anticipate multiple members there to be there. And not really a whole lot. It's just everything being burned and committed.
But Copy gets the kill. And that's the trade you make if you're Splyce. When you're down, you're never getting something for free. You're always trading it for something.
And we know Hjarnan on this Heimerdinger is lethal, but Kabe on this Varus as well is an absolute threat. This is a guy that you have to respect. You can see versus Misfits. Overall 2-2, and the KDA and the damage was just insane. This is not lethality Varus, this is that on-hit Varus, and he's putting up these kind of numbers.
Now in this game here, he's going to have to deal with Irelia plus Olaf running at him, most likely a Rise ulti coming in near him as well. So there's a lot of ways to force him to move. But as we said earlier, the later we go into the game, the harder it is to play comps without big tanks. And G2, the only tank they have is the Olaf in the front. That actually counts, but Deed will be too squishy to do anything. So you have clearly a big difference and a big advantage for Splyce in terms of team fighting late game with Maokai and Gragas. But we might never get there. And there's always enough damage on the side of G2 to kill them. And that's always one of the funny ones. Because when you get to like 3-4 items, the tanks are still really strong and they can buy enough time. Once you go to 6 items, the triple damage comps ends up just burning through the tanks so quickly that it might actually be superior to just have more damage dealers, because they are on full items. And the thing about tank stats is the more of them you get, the less value they give you. In the early game, getting a bunch of armor and magic resist will do something. Oh, Kasing's all in.
Hold that thought. Baron has been started up by Wonder and YankOS. They just want to focus on this one. Now Hjarnan has to get that. Ooh, Hourglass goes down. Buys a bit of time, but he should fall right here. Flash out to safety. Puts down the big turret. Tries to throw a bit of damage down. Tries to buy a bit of time. Baron in the sights of G2. They're clearing it out. Splyce don't even know what's going down. That's going to be it for G2. Securing the Baron here as Splyce trying to force the play mid.
We mentioned the possibility of a 2-man Baron from G2. It happened. It wasn't with the Heimerdinger. He was mid instead. Splyce, the call was all in mid with engage. Kill these 2 guys, and then we can go Baron. But they didn't get to kill Hjarnan. They spent a ton of time chasing the kills. And while all that happened, G2 were sitting there at the Baron. Like, look at the setup here. It makes a lot of sense what Splyce wants to do. All in after you land the binding, get a bunch of kills, and then go Baron yourself. But because G2 are already at the Baron, and because Wadid and Hjarnan stay alive for so long, so they did not get it knocked back, and then with stopwatch plus flash, Hjarnan stays alive here. And while all this is happening, they bought so much time that G2 got the Baron. That was actually going to be a good play from Splyce. Timing slightly off, and G2 get the Baron.
And last game we felt like it was the perks show. It was all about perks. But in this game, it feels like everyone is carrying their weight. Hjarnan and Wadid drawing all that attention. Hjarnan surviving despite literally everything from Splyce being thrown at him. Good to see on the side of G2 that the team can rally even in these high-pressure scenarios. The Heimerdinger comfort pick is just paying off.
Man, it was tight right there. Like, if Heimer dies instantly because he gets chain CC'd, Splyce can probably stop the Baron. But it didn't happen, man. He stayed alive for so long. Now YankOS and the rest of G2 are pushing forward. They should be able to get at least one in there, probably more here
and
with the Heimerdinger.
He's just walking up the tower. He's not even scared. Gragas has to burn Predator just to scare him away. Varus doing what he can with the poke skills, but he's not that lethality. Varus is that on hit, so it takes a long time for him to clear those cannon minions. And G2 just slowly chipping away at the opposition. Hjarnan eerily close to getting hit by that binding. Does have the Zanya still, though, or once again, rather.
We have to flash on Xerxes in case an engage should happen. We're looking at him. But G2 once again putting pressure on all lane. So if you all in mid a Splyce, you lose your sides.
But if you don't all in, you slowly but surely lose everything.
Man, that Baron call from G2 was so crazy. And the fact they just got it down in time while losing the mid lane means everything for G2 Esports.
Absolutely does, and now they put Splyce in a position where they're waiting for the opposition to make a mistake.
Dude, we might get 3 inhibs here if they continue pushing.
This is so difficult. They need to kill Hjarnan, but if they mess up and they leave him alive and let him lay down a tower and Zanya's, he'll kill their entire team.
They land a binding again. They're looking for something.
Coming out. They want to get a fight started, trying to slow down the sapling. Literally fishing for anything. Wonder.
What is that flash?
Get locked up.
You have to fully commit right there if you want to actually go for the all-in, but Xerxes was not in range early and then didn't want to chase down. That's now another inhib falling. 1 Baron for G2 Esports. They have 2 inhibs. Will not get the top one. That's big for Splyce. So they slightly less super minions they have to deal with. But there's an Infernal Drake coming in.
Pulling back, they will grab it. G2, 10K gold lead, 28 minutes into the game. We're finally entering Splyce's territory, that 33-minute win average time. Well, they're not used to being down 10K in those scenarios. Deficio, they have, on the side of G2, they beautifully snowballed this game, and the Baron really was just the icing on the cake.
Definitely true. Two-man Baron, while your mid lane is dropping, they're dying. Oh man, that was such a close call. In the end, G2 get it. They deserve this lead here, and 2 games have been fast early games. 2 games have been slow early games. And funny enough, we're looking like a 2-2 score into a game 5. What do you do then? Do you get the fast early game or the slow early game? It would probably tell us who wins.
And honestly, it's just been such a tense series. After game 1, I didn't know if G2 had it in them, but they've just been consistently finding a way to make these things happen. Even when disaster struck in that game 3, they did not give up hope.
The guy who loses the game
This
at
is
the red
literally,
buff picks Heimerdinger.
if you wrote a script, this is what the script would be for G2. This would be the G2 story right here. This would be the ultimate turnaround. It comes down to Hjarnan, the guy that everybody doubted, picking Heimerdinger when the pressure was on. And you have to wonder, do Splyce just ban it in game 5 if G2 are able to come out on a win here? And how committed are G2 to playing mages on the bottom side to give them this advantage, to give them this pressure in the lanes that's so critical for them to come out on top?
Well, we're gonna have to wait and see. But last inhib, it's right there for them to grab. Splyce, the only way back is an all-in fight on top side. Otherwise, they have to go back and deal with super minions, and then they will lose another inhib, and then suddenly you have tons of super minions in every single lane pushing at you. And we don't see teams coming back from 3 inhibs being down here in Europe.
We saw Misfits try, but the minions just closed it out. Maybe a similar story here. Splyce tried to find the all-in.
Oh, Kobe, you're down now.
Minions going forward. Wonder. Find a bit of time. Perkz has used the ultimate, but they're just focused on getting 3 inhibs down. G2, do they just keep the push up here? They have 2 waves of super minions crashing, but they're just fishing. G2 can play this out slowly, Deficio. I don't think that they need to risk anything here, but I think that they're
he just ulted right there. He tried to hit Kobe, but Kobe actually managed to sidestep it. Still, you got minions. No super minions just yet. There's another one coming now. This turret dropped so quickly.
Divine time, they're just peeling off. Nisqy flashes in. A beautiful ult from Nisqy. Maybe just be enough. Kobe untouched on the side. He's trying to kill Wonder. He's trying to get something, but Perkz is cutting through him. It's all too easy for the Aurelia. Splyce, a desperate final stand, but Perkz, Wonder are just too good to let this fight go that easily. Nisqy, though, still alive, denying the entrance. Is Nisqy going to be enough? Can he turn it? Is this his hero moment? He throws Perkz right back into the middle of the team. Perkz gets a reset. Are you kidding me? The Aurelia just will not die. G2 in the final moments, turning it around. The triple kill for Perkz. A beautiful fight from both sides, but it is not enough to stop G2 from ending the game, to stop G2 from taking us to a game 5 in this series.
I'm so happy we get a game 5 now. It's been a great series, really fun to watch. A lot of individual outplays happening left and right, and 2 different play styles facing each other. What will be superior in game 5? The quick, fast, aggressive 20 minutes. Or the slow, the steady, the grind.
I don't know, Deficio.
You gotta tell me, Drake.
I don't know, but I'm ready to find out, Deficio. What an incredible series thus far, 2-2. It's a good look from G2 to come back. And I legitimately thought that this team was broken after the previous game. I didn't think the mental could handle it, but they came in swinging. They said, backs against the wall, put everything on the table. It pays off for them as a team. And it looked good.
It did. I mean, we talked a lot about the Heimerdinger, but I also really want to go back to Jankos. Like, this guy was so criticized during the regular season for so many bad early games where he would just do weird stuff, get caught out in the river, just die multiple times, and really cost his team a lot. But he first picks the Olaf in this game here, and he did everything he was supposed to do in the early game, and that's crucial, because if you want to play fast early, you need a jungler who's proactive and who's succeeding with the early plays, and that happened in this game.
Absolutely did, but the moment that I want to go back, the moment that I want to look at is that final fight. Let's take a look at a replay brought to you by Acer Predator, because this one was crazy, Deficio.
I mean, this was the last stand here for Splyce. All in, Kobe's just standing, like, shooting everything he can, but he will get killed by the assassin. Of course, Perkz takes him down. And here it actually looks like Splyce for a moment can do something, but this Aurelia
stunned, buys a bit of time. Now Perkz sees the reset.
This was supposed to be a G2 fight, no matter what. Like, this game was obviously all about the first 20 minutes. But then also that Baron play. Like, the fact that we get Heimerdinger in the mid lane, who gets hit by Binding, into an all-in that would have given probably 2 kills into a Baron for Splyce, ends up being the Heimerdinger refuses to die. The ulti from Gragas knocks him like a bit further away. He then hourglass, he flashes out. And while all that is happening, G2 are 2-manning the Baron. Like, that could have legit, if you replay that a few times and it's the Heimerdinger dying early instead, into Splyce stopping Baron, we had a completely different game.
Absolutely did. I mean, insane series thus far. It's been incredibly tense in the EULCS regional qualifiers. It all comes down to this. Who is going to stay on the road to Worlds? We're going to throw it to the desk for a look at both teams before Game 5.
Thank you very much. All squared up 2-2 when we talked about the most competitive gauntlet ever. This is exactly what we meant. We are going to Game 5 2 days in a row, and Splyce is going there for the 2nd day in a row. They will have 10 games under their belt after the next one. So as we embark on the final, most important game of 2018 for both G2 and Splyce, let's take a look at the most defining factors so far. We gotta talk about Perkz for G2. I think he is the one that over this series as a whole has just performed out of his mind consistently.
Yeah, and I really think this is really what keeps G2 in this race. Also, I like the change from the first game to the second one, where he's now picking champions like Akali, he's picking the champions like Irelia. He's not afraid to go in and step up for his team, and I think that if anybody from G2 was the star player to be in the series, it was Perkz, and it's great to see that he is.
He's exceeding expectations for me so far.
Well, to me, he's kind of living up to the expectations that I've had of him all split. Because I feel like for a lot of it, he hasn't really been that big carry for the team. But now, in this best of 5, when G2 need it the most, he's finding those solo kills. He's getting those great outplays. And fortunately for him, the rest of his team is starting to catch up, especially as we saw in Game 4.
Yes, before this game, we said Perkz is playing very, very well, but we need the rest of the team to be on the same page. I think this is truly the first game that I have seen that. And one of the guys that was a huge coin flip, the entire split, EULCS, did pull out his Olaf and played phenomenally in the last game. And I think this is one of the key factors going into the next game, because Perkz is going to perform, you know. He's now done it 3 games in a row. So EULCS, on the other hand, will have to prove that he can keep this up.
And I think his early game impact, especially on the Olaf, was fantastic. We kind of saw a revitalized old First Blood King kind of EULCS, the dude that is willing to look for these early ganks, will force you into early game skirmishes, and this is what he needed to do in this game. He was put in a position to do it, and fortunately he does step up for his team.
And quite symbolically, it's up to G2 to save their summer season and probably the entire split, because if you don't make it to Worlds with your roster, you have failed.
Yeah, and on the other side, we have Splyce, who is the 2nd time playing 5 games in a row. Oh. For the mentality, this is so straining, and especially because it's day after day. Whichever team has to play tomorrow, if it's Splyce, that would be the 3rd time they have to play like 12 games at least in all this time.
And that is one of the reasons why it is so hard to make that run. But for now, they need to keep their head in the game, because they're only 1 game away from playing Schalke tomorrow. Most important people, Xerxes, the man on screen right now, who had ups and downs. At one point was called the best jungler in the league. It didn't last, and he was up and down. Today, he is putting in the work. How exactly has he been instrumental for Splyce up until this?
So I think one of the key things is that when he's put on an early game champion, he's shown that he's able to have an early game impact. And the other thing is that his team fighting is always phenomenal. Whether you give him utility, whether you give him early game, he's always in some way impacting a team fight that contributes to a swing in the win for Splyce. Unfortunately, on the Gragas this time around, they fell too far behind in the early game for him to have that same kind of impact. But I feel like that if it weren't for EULCS running about the map and causing chaos, we would have seen what Zeus is capable of on this Gragas.
And we're looking at carries on both sides, Perkz and EULCS, and then Xerxes, and for me, also Kobbe. I keep going back to him. He is the guy that in the late game team fights has to do the damage.
Yeah, and especially he is so good because he's consistent. I just want to say Splyce is a team that plays off of each other. If one person is not performing in this team, everybody fails to execute in team fights. And because they're all on the same page, especially players like Kobbe, who are not outstanding, but in this team is just so extremely valuable.
I will say that I feel that they got caught off guard a little bit by the Heimerdinger.
Yeah.
They got themselves the Varus, and they felt we've got us a comfort pick, and we're looking good and feeling comfortable. But the moment that came out, they struggled during the laning phase. They weren't able to get the same CS advantages that they have been able to throughout this series, and they couldn't utilize leads that they would have otherwise gotten in a perhaps more standard matchup.
Yeah, and I have to give props, though, to G2 there, because you cannot really prepare for the Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is always a champion that's open, and it gives this lane pressure. So props to Hjanen, especially bringing out the champion after not picking it up for such a long time. But he is the best. Like, he is probably the Reckless for Canon, you know?
He is
6-0
undefeated on the
Yeah.
champion.
6-0.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he also won... no, actually, that was another guy.
Well,
They,
to me,
they are the best
Yeah.
ball in the West. They'd have the belts.
Yes, they do. Oh, well, did you have to bring that up now? I think what's more important here is that for me, you know, everyone on G2 pulled their weight in that last game to get us here, and Splyce over the series has done the same. But you need to peak right now. This is now resetting to a best of one, Cheapy.
Yeah, and I like the stylistic difference. G2, really individual players. The bot lane plays for lane dominance. Mid lane plays for lane dominance. Jankos goes on Olaf, goes in, you know, gets the kills. On top lane, we have a Ryze. So they are really embracing what G2 is all about, what they are good at. And Splyce does it as well. So I think we're now at the ultimate point for both teams to really, you know, bring it to the game 5 and see who deserves more to be in the World Championship.
At peak performance going into game 5. So now then, they're about to play the single most important game for either team in 2018. Let's start with the 4-time EULCS champions G2. How do they keep their world's dreams alive? How do they win?
So, I think the first most important thing is Perkz is on a playmaker. We've already talked about it. If he's in a position to carry, then that is when G2 is looking like their strongest. We've seen Akali, we've seen Aurelia. The Corki earlier in the day, not the best pick for him. Even though they played towards his lane, he couldn't have the same impact that he could have on these champions where he can find his own solo kills and generate his own gold leads.
Yeah, and I think the second one is really that we're saying it for bot lane here, but I think everybody right now who is on a comfort champion has the ability to carry on the G2 squad, and that's really, really healthy to see. I think for bot lane, it was the most necessary change from the games before, so that's why we're really pointing it out here. But G2, if they are getting champions that they're really good in, then we have the game like last game where they're just popping off on each of the lanes, and it's really hard to find counterplay. Even if you start a team fight on the other side, you're losing a tower, and that's very frustrating to play against.
And then on the other side, Splyce, who did it yesterday when not that many people believed in them. They now have to win a 5th game again. What are they looking at?
So for me, it was pretty important, and you mentioned it earlier on in the series, that Nisqy gets himself the counter pick so that we aren't seeing Perkz roll over him in terms of the 1 versus 1. But also, I want to see Xerxes on continuing to be on these proactive junglers, because I think that you have to be able to match and skirmish G2 in the early game, because that's where they utilize really their individual talent to build themselves leads. And if Xerxes isn't relevant in terms of early game impact, then we'll see an example of what happened last game where Olaf gets ahead and G2 just kind of steamroll.
Yeah, and proactive here, we discussed it, actually, you brought it up in backstage. What does that actually mean? Does it mean counterplay or whatnot? This guy had 95% kill participation. So any play right now that's initiated from the Splyce side goes over Xerxes. So this guy needs to be on a champion that he can force those fights, that he can set up the team for success. So whatever champion that may be or what counter matchup is really up to him. But I really want them to be sure that this is prioritized in the draft and that he doesn't just end up in like a, well, I can do fine with this champion pick.
Yeah, TLDR, we're looking at Perkz, we're looking at Jankos, and we're looking at Kobbe and Xerxes, most importantly, on Splyce. Their most important game they're going to play of the entire year up until now. And if they win, they got to do it all again. We all voted for G2 Esports at the beginning of the day. After all you've seen, I'm going to flip-flop. I'm going to vote for Splyce. I know they're tired, but I've seen them rise above it yesterday, and I believe in the underdog story. What about you guys?
I'm not a flip-flopper, Shocks. I'm sticking with G2.
All right.
I love underdogs. So I'm going for Splyce.
There we go. Well, they will have to show us what it is on the Rift. G2 and Splyce, they've gone back and forth all day. It all comes down to one final fight. Let's fire up some silver scrapes up in here. We're going to game 5.
And I also, oh, now I'm going to have to